Hello everyone, this is Vivek Singh. I work as a senior solutions specialist at Informatica. In this video, we will talk about how to scan Salesforce resource in cloud data governance and catalog. Agenda for this video is first we will talk about what are all the objects extracted from Salesforce, prerequisites for configuring the Salesforce catalog resource, followed by what are all the permissions which we need to configure at Salesforce end, and then we'll talk about how to create connections and what kind of connections in Cloud Administrator. Then we'll talk about scanner configuration and various options in MCC, followed by a demo. CDGC uses Salesforce provided API to extract metadata. Salesforce provides various versions of REST API, and currently CDGC supports version 53 of the REST API provided by Salesforce. I would recommend to check CDGC catalog documentation before starting the configuration so that you will be having information on the latest version of API supported by CDGC at that point of time. CDGC extract organization, list view column, trigger, object and object fields from Salesforce. There are few prerequisites which needs to be fulfilled before configuring the Salesforce scanner. The first one is that your CDGC org should have two licenses. First one is Salesforce connector license and the second one is Salesforce scanner package. To verify this, log into IICS administrator and navigate to license tab. Under license tab, you will see connectors and custom license. In the connectors, you should see Salesforce, and under custom license, you should see Salesforce scanner packages. The Salesforce user which we are going to use for extracting the metadata should have access to REST API v3. This you can verify by using login API of the Salesforce and using the user to connect it through that API. You can test this using Postman app. To use OAuth authentication, we need to have reference token generated from Salesforce before starting the configuration. The Salesforce user which you are going to use to extract the metadata should have modify all data and API enabled privileges checked. If you want to use view all data instead of modify all data, it may also work with the limitation that certain objects may not be extracted. And that seems to be due to the special access rules set to those objects by Salesforce. So it's recommended that you use modify all data privilege. Let's look into Salesforce UI and see where you can specify these privileges. Once you logged into your Salesforce account, at the top right, you will see a gear icon called Setup. Click on that and then click on Setup for current app. You will see Users option under Administration. Click on that and then click on the Users. From here, open the user which you are using to connect to Salesforce. And for this user, check the profile assigned to this. So in my case, this user has profile called System Administrator. Open that profile. Then you can edit the profile and you can search for the required roles at the bottom. So we need modify all data. So let me search this. So here you can see modify all data is checked here. If it's unchecked, make sure to check this. And then we also need API privileges. So API enabled is also checked for this user. After checking these two privileges, you can save this profile. So to configure a resource for scanning in CDGC, first step is to create a connection. So in IICS administrator for CDGC resource scan, Salesforce support two type of authentication. First one is standard and the second one is OAuth. So if you are going to use standard authentication, we need to have Salesforce username, password, security token, and service URL. If you want to use OAuth authentication, then we need to have consumer key, consumer secret, refresh token, and service URL. Let's first talk about the standard authentication. So for standard authentication, your username and password for the Salesforce will be same as what user you are trying to log into the Salesforce UI, and the service URL you can get it from there. Now to generate the security token, you need to log into your Salesforce and then go to your profile, click on the setting, and from there you will get option to reset your security token. You can generate your security token from there and keep a note of the security token. Let me show you the same option from the Salesforce UI as well. So log into your Salesforce UI, click on top right, you will see view profile option, click on settings, and right side you can see under my personal information you will see option called reset my security token, and from here you can get your security token. Now one thing to mention here is when we talk about the URL, please note, don't use the URL which you see at the browser URL window. Instead your URL will be this one. So once you have all of these information handy, then you can log into IICS administrator and create a connection. In IICS administrator, click on connections and then click on new connection and create a new connection. Here I have already created a Salesforce standard authentication connection. So I'll edit this connection and show you the properties which you need to put here. So once you create a connection, give a name, and then from the type, select Salesforce, and then you can select your agent using which this connection should be running. And then from here, you can see there are two options, standard and OAuth. So this I have created for a standard authentication. And for that, you need to give the username, password, and security token, which we have generated. And here you can see under the service URL, I have given URL something like this /services and then soap/u/ and then the API version. Now, currently for CDGC, we support API version 53. So here we need to give API version like 53. And then you can save the connection after doing test connection. Second method for Salesforce connectivity is OAuth authentication. And for this, you need to generate a refresh token. Now to generate a refresh token, there are a series of steps which we need to follow. So the very first step is we need to create a connected app in Salesforce with a callback URL which is listed here. To create a connected app, log into your Salesforce and then click on setup, service setup, and in the search box you can type apps, and here you will see app manager option. Click on that, click on new connected app, provide name of the app and fill in other details. I have already created an app, so I will show you what are all the properties you need to fill in. And once you fill all the property, you can click on save. So you need to provide name of the app and then contact information for the app. And then you need to provide the callback URL, which should be same as what I have provided. And then from selected OAuth scopes, you need to select all of the available options. Then check these two options and go down and click on save. Once the app is saved, open the app and then you will see one option called consumer key and secret. So click on manage consumer details and it may send you a verification code on your registered email ID. So I will quickly enter that so that it will show me the available consumer key and consumer secret. Here you can see consumer key and consumer secret. Note down these two details as we will be needing while creating connection in IICS admin. Once the connected app is created and consumer key and consumer secret are generated, then the next step is to generate a refresh token. Now to generate a refresh token, there are two ways. The first method is you can use the Informatica provided standalone SFDC OAuth tool, and this tool you can use on a Windows machine, and instructions are provided in this link. So from this link, the marketplace.informatica.com, you can download the tool and you can follow the instructions to generate the refresh token using this tool. The second method is using a browser and Postman or curl command. So in this video, I am going to use second method to generate a refresh token for Salesforce. First, you need to open your Salesforce in browser and then log into your Salesforce account. And in the same browser, open another tab. And in that tab, hit this URL. Now in this URL, you need to put your Salesforce instance detail, and under the client ID in this, so the value of the consumer key will be what you copied in the previous step. So here I am already logged into Salesforce in one of the tab, and in the second tab, I'm going to put the URL. Once you hit the URL, you will see error message something like this. So from here, we need to copy the value which is coming in the code. So from here, you can see code is equal to this value. So copy this value and keep a note of this value. Now, next step is we need to open Postman, and then we need to create a post request. And in the post request, this is the URL and parameter which we need to pass. So here you can see we need to pass our Salesforce host name, and then code is equal to the value which we copied just now, and then client ID which we got from the previous step, which will be the consumer key, and then the consumer secret which we got. So I will open Postman and key in this detail to create a post request. So in Postman, I have created a post request, and here I have passed all the required parameters. And then I'll click on send. If the post request is successful, you will see status 200, and in the response of this post request, you will get the refresh token. So we need to copy this refresh token. So now we have client secret, client key, and a reference token, which is required for creating a connection in IICS. So let's create this connection in IICS. Log into IICS administrator connections and then click on new connection and create a connection. Here I have already created a connection, so I will open this connection and put the updated client secret and consumer keys here. So here you need to give name of the connection, type will be Salesforce, runtime environment you need to select, and then connection type will be OAuth, and here you need to give the service URL. So service URL will be in this format. This is your Salesforce host and slash services slash soap slash u, and then we support 53, so 53.0 will be the API version. So this in this format you need to give the Salesforce URL. And then here you need to give the consumer key, consumer secret, and reference token, which we got from the previous step. After putting all of the details, you click on test connection, and I can see test connection is successful, and then I can save this connection. Once connection is created, the next step is to create the scanner in MCC app. Now, before we move into MCC app, I would like to highlight one thing here, that currently for metadata extraction, we do not support standard authentication method. So in this video, I talked about the standard authentication. It is just for the information purpose. And whenever this issue will be fixed, then the process will remain as it is, and you will be able to use the standard authentication for scanning. But as of now, we only support OAuth connection type for metadata extraction and profiling. So we already have a feature request or an enhancement request raised to fix this issue. And this is the number, and you can track this request on knowledge.informatica.com, and the full URL is provided here. You can also contact GCS and get latest update on this request. Now let's jump into CDGC and create a Salesforce scanner using OAuth authentication. After logging into IICS, then click on MCC app where we create a scanner. To create a scanner, we can click on new, and then from the list, we can select Salesforce. So you can select this Salesforce and then click on create. Here we need to give the name, and then we need to select the connection. I have already created a Salesforce scanner, so I will open that and show you the properties. So here I have given the name, and then description is optional if you want to put. And then here you need to select the connection which we created in the previous step. And it will show you the connection properties which it pulls from the administrator. We can click on test connection to verify if this connection is working. So I can see test connection was successful. Click on the next, And in the next step, we can specify or we can select all the options which we want to enable for this scan. So the first one is metadata extraction. And in the metadata extraction, we need to select the runtime environment on which this scan will be running. If you want to do data profiling, you need to select data profiling. You need to check this option, and then the data profiling tab will be enabled. And from here, you can select the required options. Similarly, if you want to enable data classification, you need to check the data classification option, and then the data classification tab will be enabled. And from here, you can select all of the required data classifications which for against which you want to run this scan. For this run, I will not select anything and I will uncheck this option. And if you want to enable glossary association, you can check this option and glossary association tab will be enabled. And from here, you can select the auto acceptance threshold. For now, I will uncheck this option because I just want to go with the metadata extraction and profiling. Then click on the next, and on the next window, you will see filter option. So if you want to filter out few of the object, you can select the filter condition and then you can specify the required filters. Now, when you check filter condition, you will be getting either to include the objects or exclude the objects. If you select any of these options, you will be getting what are all the options you can include or exclude. Either you can include the object or list views, or you can exclude the object or list views. You can specify name of the object here to include or exclude. For this demo, I don't want to specify any filter condition, hence I will select no filters option and then click on next. If you want to do stakeholder assignment, you can check this option. I will leave this option unchecked. And the next step, in case if you want to schedule this job, you can click on, you can check on run on schedule, and then you can specify the schedule. I don't want to specify any schedule for this demo, so I'll leave this option and then I will click on save. After saving the resource, you can click on run. And then from here, you can see what are all the options available for this run. So in this run, I want to run both metadata extraction and data profiling. Now, if you notice, only data profiling option is available for checking or unchecking, and metadata extraction is checked by default. This is because this resource I'm going to run for the first time. And so for the first time, metadata extraction has to run. It's mandatory. And that's where this option is not available for us to uncheck. From the second run onwards, we will be having option to either run metadata extraction or run data profiling, any of these two or both of them. So we'll be having option to uncheck metadata extraction as well. Now I will click on run here. We can monitor the job progress on this screen, and we can see the metadata extraction step is completed and currently data profiling is running. So if I click on metadata extraction, it shows the stats. Total 367 views are extracted, which are having 2.2K columns. 938 objects are extracted, which are having 17K fields. And these all are part of one organization and it's having one trigger. So as it was mentioned in the documentation, CDGC was able to extract organization, object, object field, list view field, and trigger. Similarly, we can monitor the progress for data profiling. So if I click on data profiling task, you can see total 938 objects are sent for profiling. And out of which these many are successfully profiled, few are skipped and few has failed. If we click on these numbers, we will be able to see the error messages and why they are skipped or why they are failed. So one thing to notice here is when metadata was extracted, 938 objects were extracted and 367 fields were extracted. But when you see profiling, only 938 objects are sent for profiling, which means only objects are sent for profiling and list views are not sent for profiling, right? So if you see the documentation, it clearly states that data profiling task does not run on list views. So for Salesforce, only objects are supported for profiling. And it's always better to refer the official documentation which is available in the CDGC UI itself. So if you log into Metadata Command Center and right side, you will see this question mark. I can click on that and then you can click on online help. When you click on this, it this window will pop up, and here you can type Salesforce and it will open Salesforce guide, where you can see all of the information related to this scanner. So it's always recommended to refer catalog source configuration guide when you are configuring any scanner, so that you can have up to date information.
Profiling job may take some time to complete, but for us metadata extraction is already completed, so we can log into CDGC and check if the objects are visible there. In CDGC, I click on browse button, and then from here click on data catalog, and here we can see our resource. So click on the resource name and it will open the resource details, and here we can see all of the object which were extracted, like object, list view, the columns, the fields, the triggers, organization, everything is extracted here. You can refer the catalog source configuration guide available on Informatica documentation portal to get details about each scanner. Also, you can check video description to find all the artifacts which we have discussed in this video. We would love to hear from you. You can connect us on any of the Informatica support channels. Thank you.